Hi, I'm Jennifer Tunehag, and I am the Interim Global Director for the World Freedom Network. So I've actually worked in the anti-trafficking field for almost 30 years. About 28 years ago, I went to Athens, Greece to work with refugees and immigrants who were there, and very quickly became aware of the presence of women and men who were being exploited in our neighborhood. That wasn't my direct focus at the time, but I felt my heart more and more being drawn to, so who is attending to the needs of these people? Who is caring for them? Who is speaking with them and for them? And became drawn really into concern for them and started an organization in Greece that was reaching out to build bridges of help and hope to people who were being exploited, but very soon realized that in order for people to live in freedom, there was a need for jobs with dignity. And so the challenge of seeing our friends placed in jobs for safe work at a living wage was really a difficult one in that place. And so we began working on that issue and realizing that often there aren't easy or obvious solutions, and it requires businesses that have taken an extra step towards the people that they intend to employ, which is where Purna, I think, has taken more than one step, has taken a number of really intentional, proactive steps to say, this group of people deserve the opportunity to live free of exploitation, and we will create opportunities for them to do that that are also viable in the marketplace. That's a little bit about me and a little bit about Purna. It's one of the reasons I believe so much in what Purna is doing. I've seen them do superb work in this area and adjust not only to the needs of the people that they are employing, but also to the needs of the market in ways that I find innovative and really examples of good practice in the field. But businesses themselves, when you are concerned about exploitation and slavery in your company, you need to look at the things that you control or the things that you can influence. Your own HR policies, making sure that you have measures in place that people are being paid an honest wage and preferably a living wage in the place where you are working. In fact, in each of the places where you are working, what is a living wage? Are your suppliers paying a living wage to the people that they are employing? There are a number of industries that are known for exploitation in the supply chain. And so if you are working in one of the areas where this is known, you certainly need to employ professional assistance in actually checking your supply chain out. And this would include manufacturing, especially garment manufacturing. This would include agriculture. Fishing particularly is an area that is problematic in terms of supply chain, where there is often slavery found or slave-like conditions on fishing boats. You undoubtedly know your industry in some aspects, but take the time to do a little bit of a look. Where are there risks in your supply chain that people may be exploited? How you would position your business to not just be slave-free, but to actually help people to live in freedom is your role in educating your customers, your suppliers, all of the people that you are in contact with. But I think particularly your customers. How are you helping them understand the value of exploitation-free goods and services and a world that is free of exploitation? You have an opportunity with all of these groups of people to be part of educating them about their own role. As far as businesses actually working internally through their own practices to prevent exploitation, I think One of the keys to me is the pressure on price points. When you're constantly trying to get the cost down, which is something that is every business wants to do, you need to realize the effect that that has on the companies where you are sourcing these products, where there aren't very many places where they can cut costs in terms of infrastructure and materials. Often those costs are quite fixed. So the place that can be squeezed is the labor market. And in many instances, that means they're looking for what's the cheapest labor we can get, or is there a way to get free labor? While we perhaps as Western companies aren't thinking, oh, I'm going to enslave some people, in other contexts, it is not unheard of to suggest, all right, well, if we need free labor, then we're going to do what we have to do to find a labor source that we don't have to pay, which can mean children. It can mean people being functionally enslaved in conditions, or people who work for you who then you do not ever pay. And when the power differential is great enough and there aren't voices to speak out on behalf of, say, a minority group or some other group, then you may be able to do that with impunity as an employer. And so this pressure on price points is actually a really important thing. I think to me, that needs to be a conversation that you have with your suppliers where you do a lot of listening around what is necessary for people who you are employing through your supply chain to have a living wage and to be able to thrive. It is not reasonable to expect people in your supply chain to work for less than a living wage. We hope and expect that this is their one job and that they don't have to go from a full-time job in this factory to another job. So a living wage is crucial. Companies, particularly in the West, need to acknowledge that and to work towards that in all of their supply chains. Whenever I hear the word exploitation, I always kind of follow it up with, in my mind, it's exploitation of vulnerability. So when I think about what I wish I would, is that vulnerability is not an immutable quality of a person. It's not something that cannot be changed. Vulnerability is something that can, in fact, be changed if other factors around that person change, if there are other protections and other options. And this is where a business like Purna is so important. With an option for a living wage and dignified work, people are less vulnerable to being exploited. That is just a powerful thing, but there are many ways that vulnerability, that situation which is, oh, they're vulnerable people, actually it's situations around them that make them vulnerable. If we change those situations, if we create new opportunities or new protections or empower people with new skills, we can change that condition of vulnerability and we can change the situation of exploitation.